Yo, GamerNemy here and welcome back to another introduction guide video where we take a look at the archetype of a certain character, breaking down their strengths and weaknesses and just how you're supposed to use a character and what that character does in general. So for this guide, we'll be looking at Steve Foxuru. So if you're interested in playing Steve, I'm going to break down what makes his character good and basically what he does in this game, what's his archetype, right? That's the essence of these videos. Now, to be good in this game, you must have a plethora of at least every essence of what makes a character good. So in terms of punishment, combo damage, lows, right, grab game, all those things. So I'm going to break down all of those in terms of Steve Fox and which part of those tools makes him strong. So let's start with punishment. So in terms of punishment, Steve Fox is not the strongest character in the game. His punishment is abysmal at best. You won't be getting any good knockdowns or worse splats with this character. So if you're looking for punishment, Steve Fox is not that character. So let's start with his 10 frame punish. So 112 is his 10 frame punish, 27 damage, really good. Can transition into duck by pressing forward 3. 27 damage, pretty decent. For 12 frames, he has a new 2-2. Now this is a great punish, right? 29 damage, almost 30. So in a sense where certain characters like Reina or Lars can get a knockdown from a 12 frame punisher, Steve just gets a 2-2 that leaves him at +6 with a ton of space in between you and your opponent, right? So not the greatest punish, but it will make sense as I keep explaining Steve later on in the video. 13 frame, he has back to 1. This is a great punish. It leaves you in Lionheart, which is one of his stances. I will talk about Lionheart later in the video, so don't forget to watch till the end. So 12 frame leaves you at a mix-up guaranteed at +7, so really strong. Then at 14, you have the infamous Sonic Fang, which is amazing. Although nerf in this game does not knock down, does not war splat, it's still a very decent punish, very good range. Also a very good whiff punisher as well at this range, right? Somewhere here, right? So it's a very good punish at 14 frames. Then at 15 frames, whilst most characters will get a launcher at 15 frames, Steve gets a knockdown, right? That's why he finally gets his knockdown punish. But alas, he does not have a 15 frame launcher. He just has a knockdown. So you won't be launching, hella punishable moves while standing, which is Steve's biggest weakness in this game. Not having the ability to launch moves that are launch punishable, that are -15. In a case where 80% of the character can launch that move, with Steve, you will not be launching this. So now let's talk about his while standing punishment, which is no different than his standing punishment. So for 11 frames, you have while standing 1-2, right? Wild Man, which is a really good punish. 32 damage, insane. Like this punish hurts. It adds up so much. Before your opponent realizes it, they're at almost half health, right? It's a very insane punish. Leaves you at +3. Good setup for backward and stuff. I'll talk about all that later on. 13, he has a new outstanding 2-2. So this one lets you go into Lionheart, right? So if you want to just punish and get damage at 13 frames, you can go for, Wild Man. But if you want to go into pressure and go into Lionheart, you can go into outstanding 2-2, 13 frames. So really strong. Then he has no 14 frame punish, of course. Then for 15, he does not have a 15 frame outstanding punish either. His outstanding punish starts from 18, right? So even big lows, right? Like Claudio down back 3, you won't be able to launch such lows. -15 lows up to -17, which really hurts as a Steve player. It hurts. So like I said, guys, punishment, Steve Fox is not your character. So that's basically Steve's punishment in a nutshell. Not the greatest character, but it is decent. It's good enough to get the job done. And it will make sense as we keep breaking down the character. So now let's talk about his lows. When it comes to lows, Steve does not have the best lows either, right? So Steve's lows are meant to be just pokes, right? Like I said, Steve's archetype is a counter hit character. Oh, I didn't say that, but basically Steve is meant to force your opponent to press buttons because he is a counter hit archetype, kind of like Lee, but a bit dumbed down in this game, right? So he wants to force your character to press buttons. So Steve's laws are not that oppressive, but they are annoying, right? They are pokes. Basically pokes, they look like big laws, right? Like Lars or someone like Claudio, you know, or Zafina, you know. Doesn't have big lows, but like low pokes. So stuff like down 1, we'll leave it at -2, negative. He has down 2, 1, right? Look at the damage, like 11 damage, 12 damage, right? 11 damage, right? He has quarter circle forward 2, which is his quote big low at +2, although it is launch punishable on block, right? So when it comes to lows, Steve is not the best. His best low is down back to 1, but this can only be used at point blank range, and it does not even knock down. It leaves you with like Lionheart, right? So in terms of lows, again, Steve is not the best character out there. They're more so as pokes. They are meant to irritate your opponent and force them to start pressing buttons, which works in your advantage. Okay, so now when I say Steve is a counter-hit character, your game will revolve around baiting your opponent to press buttons. He has the infamous back 1, which is a safe, high launching counter-hit mid. This is probably the best keep-out counter-hit tool in the game, right? Just to show you guys something. He's got stuff like Peekaboo 2, right? Counter-hit launcher. He has stuff like Flicker 2, counter-hit launcher. So overall, he's not as oppressive as he was in Tekken 7 when it comes to counter-hit tools. He's had a ton of stuff nerfed, right? So right now, I can't say Steve is like an exclusive counter-hit archetype character, right? I think that archetype or that identity has fallen to Lee, right? Completely been given to Lee. Right now, Steve is a hybrid between aggressiveness in terms of like pressure. Like his pressure is insane in this game with his new stance, Lionheart, right? And the balance between counter-hit as well and grabs, right? Due to his new hit mechanic. So firstly, I've spoken about counter-hit. Now let's talk about his offense, right? So now when I say Steve is an oppressive character, he is insane, right? He has a good jab game, right? This makes him command this space heavily, especially against characters that don't have like high crush moves or moves that go under highs, right? Steve is a beast at this range and commanding this range, which makes him a very, very strong character at that specific thing, you know, that specific thing that he does. So the jab game, right? Quarter circle forward 1, all these moves for keep out, right? 1, 1, 2. There's a back 2. He was given a new sway now, a Lionheart sway, you know, like a Feng back kempo or budget back kempo. So you are really commanding this space. It's your space. Down forward 2. Oh, sorry, I forgot to speak about down forward 2 as well, being one of his counter-hit moves in the game. Although nerfed, it's still, you know, it's still a counter-hit too. So therefore, cementing more of his counter-hit archetype as well. So speaking more about his pressure, he has Peekaboo as well, which is an offense-oriented stance, you know, as well as Lionheart. But for Peekaboo, he has a good low, which is down 1, which is +2. You saw from my previous, you know, showcase that his lows are not that plus, but down 1 is like decent low poke, except from like the quarter circle forward 2. So down 1 is meant to annoy your opponent, right? You can stay in your opponent's face with sways, right? Back down 1, you try to dick jab, you can sway out of that, right? It's like really, really good. Just annoy the hell out of your opponent, right? They press buttons. He has Peekaboo 2, which is a counter hit, right? He has an upward 2, which is a launcher. So this is why I say his stance is just so oppressive, right? Jab, cancel. They try to backdash, get back in their face, force them with pokes. That's Steve's game plan. That's what Steve wants to do. Oppressiveness. He's a very oppressive character while still being a counter-hit defensive archetype as well. So he has that balance to him. Flicker is another kind of stance that is oppressive because he has flicker jabs, right? Flicker jabs do the same thing that his normal jabs do. They control the space, right? So you can control the space by doing flicker jabs. Flicker jabs too, they press buttons. Flicker jabs cancel into into albatross spin. You can cancel to Peekaboo. Like he just flows. Cancel into duck, go back into Peekaboo, right? He just flows, right? He's that kind of oppressive character. And finally, we have Lionheart. Now, Lionheart is his like big mix-up 50-50 stance because it does have a guard break, right? 1+2. This will guarantee you 12 frames, meaning you can get a 2-2 guaranteed. What am I doing, Nemi? What am I doing? So you can get 2-2, right? You can get 1-1-2. So it's a very, very oppressive stance. Then if they duck, he has 2 mids, right? A safe hit engager mid, which is homing, so they're not going anywhere, right? And then instant screw 2, which is a mid as well, but this is unsafe at -13. Not that minus, but you know, it will stop them from ducking for sure. So it's a very oppressive stance, guys. Very, very oppressive. So as you can see, he has that balance between keep out, you know, counter it, but still being aggressive, right? So it's crazy. He's a very strong character in this game, but not as strong as Tekken 7 in my opinion. But like, he gets a job done, man. He gets a job done. In a game that's heavily offense oriented, being a defensive character in a sense makes you kind of strong. So the last part I spoke about Steve's archetype is the grab game. Now, he's been given a new mechanic. Sorry, no hit limit, right? No hit limit, right? Yeah. He's been given a new hit mechanic that allows him to have a grab whilst in extended duck. So his extended duck is as forward 3, right? If you hold it, right? So you can go for a grab. So 3+2, 3+1, or 1+3, or 2+4. It's the same thing. You can map it on your key. Then he has 2 options for this. He has a 1, which leaves you at +14. They're therefore guaranteeing you a Sonic Fan, right? Or if you want, you can do like back 1-2 into Lionheart, go for another mix-up, right? Guard break, boom, let's keep the offense going. Or his 2, which does a guaranteed base 50 damage. So this makes Steve have a very, very oppressive grab game whilst in hit. Now, Extended Duck 3 is a very, very slow process, right? So this can get predictable and people can start ducking. You do have some options like a mid, right? Safe speed that knocks down for guaranteed forward 2. Another mid that launches, but is -14. This is a -14 mid that launches. So if you see them ducking, start going for this, just mix them up, you know. And finally, he has a manual input into extended duck, right? Basically, it makes extended duck moves come out fast, right? So you can go for an instant grab mix-up like this. But as you can see, it takes up a ton of your hit gauge, right? It takes up a bar. Check that out. It takes up a bar. So if you use this manually, I think you're only getting about 1 mix-up, 1 grab mix-up total. If you're lucky, at least 2 in a match. Sorry, in a round, right? So you must use this very, very efficiently. And the worst part about this is that his 2 grab takes up a huge chunk of his hit bar. So look at my hit gauge, and I'll go for the 2 grab. Look at that, right? So basically my hit is done. All that for 50 damage, right? So it's crazy. Also, a character like Raven can get a ton of mix-up potential in his hit. Steve gets basically 1 grab guaranteed mix-up, especially if you go for the 2. But it makes sense because he can be very, very strong, right? Being a counter hit, being a grappler, good keep out and annoying poking, it will make him extremely, extremely overpowered. So now, something scary about Steve is at the wall. This grab mix-up, more specifically his 1, can give him a wall splat. Now it's locked behind some execution, but with practice comes perfection. So something like this, 1, right into manual, Peekaboo, right, 80 damage. So this makes him very, very scary at the wall. So most people will try to break the 1, right, at the wall. So this gives you the chance to go for the 2 instead. So 50 guaranteed damage, which is not actually bad. So that's basically Steve's archetype in Tekken 8, guys. If you want a character, excuse me, I have a horrible flu. If you want a character that deals good damage, I didn't mention his damage, sorry guys. Damage is good, right? Considering the fact that 90% of your launchers will come from counter hit tools, right? Your damage is pretty good. So just something basic. Alright, 77. You can get up to like 90 with like sweaty stuff, right? So considering the fact that most of your launchers come from counter hit tools, your damage, you're guaranteed to get, you know, some really, really good damage. So that's basically Steve's archetype in Tekken 8. If you want a character that does good, has good counter hit twos, oppressive offense, stance offense, jab offense, annoying pokes, right? That kind of offense, and a very scary hit mechanic, grab game in hit, then Steve is a character for you. Glaring weaknesses: no 15 frame launchers, standing launchers, so you won't be launching a lot of moves that are minus 15, and he has very bad knockdowns. You won't be really knocking down your opponent as much, right? Moves like what forward one, which knocked down in Tekken 7, now leave the opponent standing because it's a hit engager now, right? It knocks down, but because it's a hit engager, they get back up, right? 2-2. Sonic Fang is like your only basic knockdown that you have, right? Stuff like forwarding 2 is a good knockdown move. But basically knockdowns and punishment, you're gonna struggle. And making a comeback as well is not that easy with Steve. You have to take huge risks in this game compared to Tekken 7, right? Tekken 7, he had the Sonic Fang Rage Drive, which was really good, but that's gone in here, and you have to rely on like clinch grabs, which are risky. They can duck, right? And Peekaboo, Lionheart mix-ups. Remember, guard break is a high, down back 2-3, down back 3-2 is a low. That's launch punishable. So you have to take huge risk in this game to make a comeback. So I don't love Steve. I will be playing him. Like I said, more guides will be coming, intermediate, beginner. So don't you worry, guys. Steve is my boy. I still love him. I still play him. I will make more content for our boy. So anyway, guys, if you made this far, please don't forget to that like button. It helps me out with the algorithm. As a small channel, it's so hard to compete. So please, guys, do the kind thing and leave a like button and subscribe if you're new. May the frame data be ever in your favor. GG, my boys, and play some Steve.